Hello everyone and welcome back to another SwitchWatch review. James is away at the moment, so I'm filling in to take care of My Time at Portia. Let's dive into the review. My Time at Portia is a laid-back life sim that's been out on PC for about a year now. Its gameplay is quite similar to Stardew Valley and Harvest Moon, but also has elements of My Sims from the Wii era. There's less emphasis on farming and livestock here, but more focus on taking building commissions from townsfolk. There are also RPG elements such as fighting creatures, earning XP, leveling up and picking skills from a perk tree. It's not the most diverse perk tree in the world, but it's a nice touch that adds another layer to the game, and helps diversify it from the similar titles that I mentioned before. There's a fairly derivative story about your father leaving his workshop to you and mysteriously disappearing, but it's pretty weak and forgettable overall. I don't think the story will be the main driving force behind players picking up My Time at Portia anyway. The gameplay in My Time at Portia, however, has something for just about everyone, and is sure to hook you in one way or another. You can spend your time farming, fishing, fighting colourful enemies, mining or woodcutting, and building commissions, and so much more. Anyone that's seen a trailer for this game has a good idea of what's in store. It's a real shame then that the Switch port seems to fight with you so often. As you may have heard from other reviews, the dreaded bridge mission is still an enormous hurdle that's thrown at you right from the start. It's the first real mission the game gives you, but building a bridge also means building furnaces to smelt the metal bars, which then need to be cut into plates, pipes and blades on other machines, but you also need to collect enough ore for the furnace, and so on. The whole ordeal of building the bridge took me about 7 hours of playtime and most of the first in-game month, despite having multiple furnaces on the go at once. I didn't even have time to talk to any of the townsfolk, and building relationships is a big part of why people play games like this, especially titles such as Animal Crossing. It just feels like My Time at Portia should ease you into it a bit more, but you're dropped in at the deep end and left to figure out the rest for yourself. As I mentioned before, this game focuses on building rather than farming, though you can still fish, grow crops and keep livestock. You'd assume then that taking construction commissions is the best way to make money, right? Well, you're half right, but for some annoying reason you can only take one commission at a time. Not only that, but you can only accept one new commission per game day, so even if you complete one in the same day you accept it, you can't go back and pick up a new one until tomorrow. This just feels like an unnecessary bottleneck to your progression, honestly. Speaking of things limiting your progression, the load times on Switch are excessive. In handheld mode, it takes about 3.5 minutes to go from launching the game to actually being able to play it. No, I'm not kidding you. There's 70 seconds of loading and logos before you select to continue game, then another 60 seconds of loading until you wake up in your workshop, and then another 50+ second loading screen to step outside and begin your day. This step is totally unnecessary, by the way, as there's nothing to do inside except decorating your house, which you could do at night anyway. My advice would be to put your Switch to sleep and never close the game if you want to play My Time at Portia, but that obviously doesn't help if you want to play something else in the meantime. This wouldn't be much of an issue if you could save at will, but the only way of saving your game is by sleeping at the end of the day. I know similar games like Stardew Valley do this too, but I'm not a fan of this system in any game, and here's an example of why. One mission has you collecting urchin spines from low-level enemies. When I was farming said urchins, a nearby level 25 enemy waltzed over and one-hit me, instantly flashing up the game over screen. The complete lack of an autosave or manual save option meant I had to repeat the day all over again. This actually happened twice, as I wasn't sure why I'd reached the game over screen before, but the second time I saw the enemy's attack hit me just before I died. Both times I turned the game off and put my Switch down. I was so infuriated. Losing progress is the most demoralising feeling, especially when days can last half an hour or so of real time. Don't get me wrong, I love a good roguelike, but life sims like My Time at Portia are meant to be relaxing, not punishing. Fortunately, there's also plenty of other mechanics that are user-friendly though. For instance, there seems to be no penalty at all for late nights. In Stardew Valley, if you aren't in bed by a certain hour, you have a stamina penalty the next day. In My Time at Portia, however, you can stay up past 2 AM and wake up at 7 with a full bar. In fact, if you're outside at 3 AM, it automatically transports you home, seemingly without any sort of penalty. This helped me out when I got wedged into some scenery and couldn't move, as running down the clock saved me from having to reset and repeat the whole day. Similarly, there's no penalty for running out of stamina here. Rather than passing out and being sent home, My Time at Portia just alerts you that your stamina bar is empty and disables any actions that would use stamina. This is a much friendlier system in my opinion, especially as it's easy to forget and empty your stamina bar without even realising. You can also freely upgrade your inventory space at any time, though this isn't something the game makes particularly obvious. Still, it's nicer than having to find, buy or craft a better rucksack, as is the norm for the genre. The game's handbook is also very thorough and good at telling you what steps you need to take when assembling something. Rather than just telling you that you'll need 4 bronze plates and 15 stone bricks to build the bridge, it actually explains that bronze plates can be made in the cutter using 3 bronze bars, which each need 3 bronze ore and 1 tin ore to be smelted into the furnace, and so on. The sights of My Time at Portia are bright and colourful, while the sounds are cheery and fit the overall motif quite well. I was particularly surprised by the comprehensive character creator at the start of the game, letting me live out my all-time fantasy of being a purple boy with a green, bowl-cut hairdo. Just look at that beauty. It's a real shame though that we don't have any voice acting on the Switch, especially as the PC version received some as part of their early access. It really makes the game feel lonely, doubly so when you watch the awkward silent cutscenes that are just begging for some voiceovers. Did I also mention the loading screens are silent? That 3.5 minute wait to get into the game isn't even accented with any music to keep us company. We spoke to the publishers Team 17 who told us they're adding additional features in a post-launch patch. This should get the console ports up to speed with the PC version, so let's hope we get some more audio added in the future. My Time at Portia is $30 in the States or £25 on the UK eShop. There's also a physical edition available for about £30 too. This appears to be the same price as the Steam version, and it's difficult to overstate just how good a deal this is. You can get well over 50 hours out of the story alone, and this is the type of game that can be played for hundreds of hours if you get lost in that daily rhythm. So what's my overall verdict? I don't think I've ever been this divided on a game before. On the one hand, the gameplay loop of collecting resources and building commissions is incredibly addictive, but the game's loading screens and outdated design choices seem to fight me at every turn. Eventually it got the better of me and I couldn't bring myself to play more than the 35-hour mark, but I'm sure others will be happy to power through. If you enjoy games like Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, I'm sure you'll get a good kick out of My Time at Portia. If you're on the fence, I suggest watching more gameplay of the Switch version to see if you can stomach the differences, or maybe look at picking up the PC release. Either way, this is a game that's best played with a guide at hand. You may find yourself regularly googling where to find a certain crafting ingredient and so on. My Time at Portia gets a 7 out of 10 from me on Nintendo Switch. It's by no means a bad game, and it provides a lot of rewarding gameplay for a very reasonable price. It would score much higher though if the quality of life complaints I had could be addressed, so let's hope the future patches fix some of those issues. Well, that's all for this video review. Remember to leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you haven't already. Tell us in the comments below whether you plan on picking up My Time at Portia. We'd love to hear your opinions on this one. I'll be back next week with another review, but here's some of the great content Juan, James and Jordan have been working on recently. See you all soon.